Hey everyone, in today's video I'm going to be answering some of your questions regarding my tinnitus experience, and hopefully it will provide some more insight and help you in some way. I also just want to say that obviously I am not an expert. I am just sharing my own experience and the things that I've learned, and I'm aware that there are all kinds of causes for tinnitus, but I'm just kind of talking about my experience with it, which is really kind of anxiety related, and I think that that would be the case for a lot of you watching as well. So the first question that I'm going to answer is, how long have I experienced tinnitus for? Since June 2020, I have experienced tinnitus, and initially it was extremely challenging and really intense for me. It caused me to go through an extremely dark and difficult phase of my life for several months, and I felt really lost and I just could not see a way forward. Eventually, I came across more positive tinnitus stories, and ultimately it led me to a woman named Joey Remini, who is a trained vestibular audiologist and neuroplasticity therapist. And she had a course called Rock Steady, which she was offering, and I chose to do that course. And it was the first thing that really provided me some serious relief and helped me kind of in my healing journey. Although I can still hear my tinnitus occasionally, like I mentioned in my first video, it's usually when I'm feeling out of balance in some way, and it is just nothing compared to how loud and intense it used to be, and it used to just be constant. I acknowledge that I still have a lot of inner work to do, particularly when it comes to regulating my nervous system and just feeling safe and secure within my body and mind. So I believe that by focusing on what I want to feel and continuing self-work, my tinnitus sounds that I do hear occasionally will just diminish even further. Interestingly, after posting my first video about tinnitus, my own tinnitus actually started to be in my awareness a lot more. I guess I didn't really think about the impact that it would have on my own tinnitus when it came to posting videos about it and talking about it. I've learned that the key is to not dwell on the sound, to talk about it excessively and to try and get rid of it, because it only reinforces its importance in the brain and brings it even more into your awareness. Despite this, I am happy to share my experience when it comes to my own tinnitus journey, because I do want to help those that are suffering, because I suffered so much from my tinnitus. But I also don't want it to define my life or to dominate my thoughts or this YouTube channel, because I also want to be able to move on with my life as well. Tinnitus is what's ultimately led me into delving so much deeper into inner work and just my own anxieties and human emotions and behaviors, core beliefs, the kind of patterns that often stem from childhood that we carry into adulthood. And these are the things that I am really interested in talking about and sharing on this channel. So the second question that I'll be answering is, have I experienced other symptoms with tinnitus? Throughout my life, especially in recent years, I have experienced a lot of anxiety-related symptoms, and some of them are closely linked to my tinnitus, which really brought me into probably the worst period of my life. I learned from Joey that tinnitus can bring about other symptoms such as dizziness, vertigo, even visual disturbances, because they all originate from the same vestibular system. Similar to tinnitus, these symptoms are caused by errors and misfiring in the brain's neurons. Personally, I experienced tinnitus, vertigo, dizziness, all kinds of visual disturbances all at once. And actually during that period was when I was at my absolute worst, and I ended up having to get an MRI because I just could not cope without getting that medical clearance and just calming myself down. My tinnitus has also included things like clicking and popping sounds, which can happen especially if I'm talking for a long time. And I've also experienced kind of my hearing ping and drop in and out of my ears, and all kinds of things when it comes to my hearing as well. It felt like my senses were just all out of sync, and it was honestly just so horrible, and I just felt like I couldn't even be alone with my own thoughts. There's much more to delve into about these symptoms, but I think that that would make this video way too long. Joey helped me understand that experiencing these kind of symptoms results in improper communication to the brain, which causes these error signals and sensory conflict, and it is often caused by an imbalance within yourself, whether it's in your body or mind. In my case, I have had a lot of anxiety, and even if I felt calm some days or well rested, I know that I've had this underlying state of, being in fight or flight as my default, but it's just somewhat normalized because I'm so used to it by now. And, having my dad die in the last few years and all of these things that have happened in my life has definitely resulted in me having a lot of imbalances within myself. So if you feel like you might have some imbalances in your own internal world, then I suggest trying to pay attention to those things and try to find ways that you could address them. Question number 3 is, how do I cope with sleep and tinnitus? For a while, I had trouble sleeping because of my tinnitus, and all I could do was focus on the sound, and I would shut my eyes, and I'd often have these visual disturbances where I'd kind of see these colored spots when I'd shut my eyes, and I just had so many crazy visual disturbances over the last couple of years that I would make a completely separate video about that, because there's like 10 symptoms within my visual symptoms that are crazy. So that's for another day. But obviously, all of these things that I would experience when I'm trying to go to sleep made it feel impossible to actually sleep. I've actually had issues with sleep for many years at this point, and it was already a thing before tinnitus came into my life, and I think all of it is largely because of having a dysregulated nervous system. When it comes to my tinnitus and trying to sleep, I tried various different sounds from my phone to try and mask the tinnitus, which didn't really work. However, as I delved further into self-work and actually kind of understood myself more and my anxieties and coping mechanisms and everything like that, I started to be able to regulate my nervous system more and more, which in turn helped me sleep and become less fearful towards the sound and have more acceptance and kind of go through the process and journey of going through all of that. I wasn't then afraid of the tinnitus sound, and therefore even if the tinnitus was there, I didn't have so much fear and negative emotion attached to it, which made it really hard to not focus on the sound. It just didn't bother me anywhere near as much if it was there when I was trying to sleep. I also do a 10-minute meditation when I get into bed, whether I'm lying down or sitting up, and there's just something about doing the meditation that allows me to kind of slip under and fall asleep more easily compared to just getting into bed and trying to sleep. So that has really helped me, and I've been doing that for the last 2 years. Even now, if I do notice my tinnitus, it's usually at nighttime because it's when I'm the most tired and you're in quite a quiet and silent environment. Often when we get into bed, our emotions and thoughts can all rise to the surface, and it's a lot harder to distract yourself from everything going on in your life when you're trying to go to sleep, and the same thing can happen with your tinnitus. I still do even find comfort from playing a white noise from my phone when I do sleep every now and then, and that's just something that I continue to do. So thanks to these approaches and doing inner work, tinnitus doesn't prevent me from falling asleep anymore, and also doesn't bother me even when it is there. I recommend exploring your own nervous system and to find ways that you can calm your own body and mind for better sleep. So the 4th question is, what body practices, if any, do I use and do they help? The body practices that I find to be the most helpful for me are things like body scans, different kinds of meditations, and deep breathing exercises. I think that strengthening the connection between your body and mind is quite crucial when it comes to healing and when it comes to feeling safe within your nervous system. It might be scary initially to focus on your body, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed or really symptomatic, but over time, it really does encourage safety and healing. By embracing your body with compassion and acceptance, it really can lead to fewer symptoms. In dealing with anxiety and symptoms and a dysregulated nervous system, you can't always just logically think yourself out of it, because that's not actually how the brain always works. Deep breathing is great because it really does trick the brain into thinking that you're kind of relieved, and it really slows down your heart rate, and just everything about it just kind of settles your nervous system. And so I think that that's a really helpful one to do as often as you can. I've more recently discovered just how important exercise is for overall health as well. So I have been trying to incorporate that into my routine more and more. And another benefit of exercise is that, it really does help things like anxiety and sleep as well. Number 5, are there any medications or therapies that can help alleviate tinnitus symptoms? I haven't taken any medications for tinnitus. When I was really, really anxious a couple of years ago, I was prescribed some anti-anxiety medication, but I only took it a couple of times when I was feeling really, really overwhelmed and felt like I just couldn't function. Personally, I prefer not to medicate myself, and I have heard that, a lot of medications can make tinnitus worse. I prefer to focus on deeper self-work and trying to really get to the root cause of my problems, even though that, can be a really long and challenging road to take. Everyone is different and it's definitely a personal decision, so I would just suggest doing your own research or talking to a doctor that you trust to make your own decision about whether you would want to take any medication or not. Number 6, what lifestyle changes or habits can I adopt to manage tinnitus? Over the years, I have tried numerous things to get rid of tinnitus, and I have learned that different approaches work for different people. Some things like alcohol, for example, might worsen tinnitus for some, but then not for others. I personally don't really drink alcohol and I don't have caffeine, and that's for a couple of reasons, not even really just because of tinnitus or anything, and it doesn't faze me. I do think it's really easy to get caught in the trap of trying to fix yourself too much, and that can just actually increase your awareness of tinnitus. When you constantly try to avoid something, your attention remains on that very thing. The key is to shift focus away from your tinnitus and to instead focus on what brings you joy and balance into your life. By making tinnitus a central part of your life to manage, it really can reinforce its importance and obviously bring it more into your awareness. I think that it's totally fine to experiment with what may affect your tinnitus, but I would just suggest not getting too fixated on that. Question number 7 is, do I recommend the Rocksteady program that Joey Remini offers? I have had a couple of people ask me whether I would recommend that they do the course or not. And it's something that I never feel comfortable saying yes or no to, because I think that it's really quite a personal decision. I know that it's not a small amount of money, and therefore you really need to weigh up your kind of circumstances and if it's the right time or best course for you to be doing. For me, I can say that I definitely don't regret doing the course, because it's really the resource that started my path to healing and overcoming tinnitus and allowed me to better understand my experience. It felt like a safety blanket that I had, which was kind of guiding me in the right direction. I think that you could start by reading her book, which I mentioned in my first video about tinnitus, and maybe that way you can see whether you would like her course as well. The book wasn't out back then when I did the course, but I think that the book, even by itself, is a really helpful resource. So yeah, it's really a personal decision, and everybody's gonna have different results from the course anyway, so that's really for you to decide. Question number 8, does tinnitus still bother me today? I can still hear my tinnitus occasionally, and like I said, after talking about it on YouTube and speaking to people about it, it's definitely been more in my awareness recently compared to before. And I'd be lying if I said that I've never had the thought that, I've just wanted the tinnitus to be gone, or wouldn't it be nice if I didn't hear my tinnitus, because I am still human. However, I've realized that by constantly trying to get rid of it and having so much negative emotion and fear attached to the sound, it was never going to lead me to successfully overcoming tinnitus. Fortunately, I no longer fear my tinnitus sounds even when they can come and go anymore, and it really just doesn't have this big impact on my life anymore. And I know that, if I was to go back in time to when tinnitus first came into my life and tell myself that I'd somehow be okay even if I heard my tinnitus just more rarely and every now and then, I would have thought that that was insane and just not possible. But now I'm here, years later, and living proof of that, and you can be this way too. Ideally, you'd get to a point that even if you heard your tinnitus 10% of the time, it's not going to bother you, because you know that it can just come and go, that it's no big deal, and your brain can let it go and, not keep it in your awareness. Ideally, you will have learned kind of coping strategies and done more deeper work within yourself that you're able to handle any challenge that life throws at you in a better and more balanced way. And lastly, I wanted to mention number 9, which is less of a question and more of a statement, but to focus on what you want to feel and what brings you joy in life. I know I'm probably repeating myself here, but it really is crucial to shift your focus away from the sound and to focus on what you want to feel instead. The more you dwell on any symptom, the more it's going to persist. This process takes time and it doesn't happen overnight. There is no quick fix, but you will just have to go through your own journey of all of the ups and downs and get through it. Don't expect your journey to just be this continuous thing of progress where you're just going to feel better and better all the time, because you will fall backwards and things do come up that are challenging, and you will go through these ups and downs of hearing tinnitus more one day and hearing it less the next, and that's just all part of it. It really is essential to treat the body and mind holistically and not see them as two separate things, because they really are so highly connected. I want to recommend a book by Dr. Nicole LaPera, who is also known as the holistic psychologist. It is an amazing and helpful workbook that she has more recently released after her first book called How to Do the Work. It provides valuable insights and practices to understand yourself deeply, including your childhood experiences, core beliefs, patterns of behavior, emotions, and how the nervous system works. Her work really ties in concepts from some of the wisest people that I've found in the kind of self-work and psychology space, and I really couldn't recommend anything better. I encourage you to explore her content and to consider getting this book or her first book to really start or continue your journey with self-work. By understanding yourself better, you can bring more balance, joy, fulfillment, and self-awareness into your life, which can ultimately help you become your authentic self more and more day by day. You can learn to feel less and less stuck in your life and the patterns that you're in, which, so many of us are often stuck in a lot of the time. I'm sure that I've probably missed things that I've wanted to touch on or mention, but I've done the best that I can. And so thank you for watching, and I hope that it has been helpful in some way for you. Have a lovely day or night wherever you are in the world, and please, please stay hopeful and know that you can get better, you are not alone, and that you can get through this. Thank you for watching.